when that bass line drops, because you know what that means. That means Rob Live is in the house. And I always tell you guys I'm excited, right, Jim? I always say I'm excited.
You do, man. You're always excited.
It's really extra today. Trust me, folks. So like and subscribe and be part of the excitement that we're doing. Again, shout out to Georgia, the country, right? Not the state.
Yep.
That's our biggest followers right now, along with the Central Valley. We have our friend in Ireland, right? Hey, we still recognize you. And if you want to get shout outs and you want to be recognized, please message us. We love to hear from you, feedback. Jim likes to hear about how beautiful his set is. And we want to make sure that we recognize you guys. So please shout out and we'll shout out your town. But today I want to talk about a really special moment in my life. Just like you guys, right? If you have children, they're everything, right? And so I have two young men, and I'm always trying to expose them to very important, impactful experiences. So at my school, my career center person reaches out and says, "Hey, Rob, we have this brother-to-brother conference happening at Lemoore College, and you should have your boys go." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna tell the whole class, but my two boys, they're voluntold. We don't ask them. They're going, right?" And I'm excited about this thing, and I start doing a little research, and it's a person I've been following for a while. Who I've been very impressed with, and said, "Man, I want to meet this person." So what did I do? Okay, principals, if you're listening right now, right? If you're out there, I apologize for what I did. I snuck off on my lunch break and showed up at Lemoore College because I wanted to meet this guy in person. And now, dream come true. He's here in the studio with us. DR.JONATHAN HERNANDEZ, a.k.a. H.
Hey,
Welcome.
let's go, Mama. I made it. I'm on the Rob Live podcast.
Hey, look, Ma, I made it. He's here. Thank you.
Thank you, man, for the invite. This is a beautiful studio. It's always nice when we get Raider Nation in the house. So shout out to Jim and Rob. So,
yeah.
I'm loving that.
It's
for
our
sure.
year, man. It's our year. We're gonna. But we say that every year.
Yeah, that's
Do
right.
you guys see the hat we got there? We got some swag. This is
You're
Rise
looking
to
good.
It. We're going to put the link to everything that H is doing so you guys can reach out and maybe experience the live. Well, we'll talk about more about what he has to offer because there's so much to it. But I want to start with the beginning. Mm-hmm. I go to this conference, right? And there's a DJ.
Yeah.
The kids are all dancing. I think President Preston, right? Didn't he do some
James
speaking?
Preston was in the house along with the UC Merced Chancellor, my guy Angel from Madera Community College,
Yes.
Robert, of course. Dr. Pimentel was in the house representing
he
West
was
Hills.
there, huh?
So it was a lot of great people in there for sure.
And what really touched me was the population that was there in terms of the students. It was like the perfect group that you want, right? Young men who need some guidance, need some direction. And then you guys broke off into small groups. And my sons still have, they handed out these little like journals.
Okay, yeah.
Brother to brother. They still have them, and they have their notes in there.
Excellent.
And I was like, man, this is really, beyond just the conference. And so I was so impressed with that. And so I was like, I need to know all of this because this is what I, eventually, that's part of what we want to do.
Sure.
You're living the dream right now. And so I want to start from the beginning because I feel it's important for people to know our roots.
Absolutely.
Because John Leguizamo, I saw a video with him yesterday. For those who know, in other countries, I'm sure you guys know John Leguizamo, a renowned actor from New York, I believe Puerto Rican.
Mm-hmm.
And he's really proud of his Latino heritage, and he always talks about it. And he talked about not seeing people like him early on in movies and things like that. And so he shared some words of wisdom. And one of the things that he was saying is that if you don't see something that exists in your world, that is a cue to go out and make it happen. And that's what you guys did. You guys made it happen. You brought it all together. And he says, people need to see people who look like them, who move like them, who live in the same places they do. And so I think you're a great example of that. And that's why it's important that people know your origin story.
Right.
That, you didn't come from some big, fancy Hollywood heritage, right? And just came in, and then everything was handed to you. Mm-hmm. So can you tell us a little about where you were born and raised?
Yeah, absolutely. So Born and raised in Selma, California. Selma representing,
Selma
raising capital of the
Bears.
world, baby. Right, Bear Nation.
Okay, let me tell you what I remember from Selma. And Maribel, I don't know if you've been to Selma a couple times, right? There's this man with a hamburger and a little mustache.
That's my man Wilkins. There we go.
Wilkins,
for
right?
sure.
I love that place. And
Yeah.
the 99 Bowl. What's it called?
For sure. The bowling alley. We
bowling-
always call it the 99. Yeah.
So we went there for a field trip when I was a kid. Jim, you'll get a kick out of this. And in the restroom, they had like little vending machines with like cologne and something called Spanish Fly. And, it was like, and everybody was so intrigued. Oh, we're going to get the cologne. And I remember that. And they had the Shirley Temple. And so you've been there.
Oh, yeah.
So I didn't know they had a banquet hall in there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Did
We
you
do
know
it
that?
up. We
There's
do
a
it up.
banquet hall?
No.
Have you been to the 99 lanes in Selma?
If I did, I wouldn't remember. Yeah, it's been so long.
Yeah. And if you went back in the day, it looks exactly the same pretty much. It's still the same vibe, man. It's
I
good
love it.
times. It's good times for sure.
Still piss on the floor, you know.
So we're born in Fresno?
I was actually born in Selma. So I'm born
Oh, yeah,
and
the
raised.
hospital.
Yeah. I'm
Selma
born
Hospital.
and raised. They have a Selma hospital there.
Man, that's like. So then, where'd you go to school?
I went to school. We went to Wilson. I went to Wilson Elementary School. And then Selma was getting pretty big at that time. It still is. The population is growing every day. But then we went to Roosevelt. I went to Roosevelt for my
Roosevelt
fourth, fifth,
Rough
and
Riders.
sixth. Yeah. It used to be a junior high.
Yeah.
Selma was
That's right.
expanding. And then I went to elementary school there. Went to junior high at a private school. And then it just wasn't for me at that time. Went back to public school, Selma High School. And
you're a
that's,
bear.
I'm a bear for sure.
Yes.
You know, orange and black all day. And then from high school, graduated. And just a big joker, honestly, in high school. You know, I was ASB president, homecoming king. Always
ASB
talked to different.
president?
Well, ASB president, but at the same
that
time, the
answers
biggest.
a lot of questions
Yeah.
for me.
It was
Because
the
you had to
ASB
organize
president
the prom. You had to make sure everything was right.
for sure. And it was the team that we had. And so I think early on, developing those skills, but at the same time, probably when we have meetings, especially like with Yosemite, Sierra, I think was in our league. Kingsburg's always been in our league.
Yeah.
I would meet with those other presidents, and I'm like, dang, I don't fit in, like at all, like because of my personality and because I felt maybe inadequate, imposter syndrome, maybe at that early age.
Yeah.
And so, high school's still trying to figure it out, just like all the kids that are
But
doing
you
it
did
right now.
have enough gumption and courage to say, I'm going to run for president.
For sure, I was kind of voluntold by some teachers. You know, I think they just
saw
wanted to see what
something in
happened.
you, huh?
They
See
saw
those
something in me.
Teachers, shout out to teachers.
Yes,
Okay,
shout out
so
to
who
all
was
of our
that
teachers.
teacher in high school who was like, there's something
Ooh.
special here?
Mrs. Ulrich was my leadership teacher.
Mrs. Ulrich.
Yeah.
If you're out there and watching, well, we're going to make sure we get this link to you. She's still in Selma?
So check this out. Me and my wifey Maribel, she's in the studio. My beautiful wife Maribel, we're in the studio
It's
today.
Maribel from Dinah.
From Dinah. She's a
Empress.
Dinah Heine. She's a
Yeah,
Dinah Heine
Dinah
for sure.
I'm still in that.
For sure. Me and my wife, we're
Dinah.
living in Visalia. We've been
Yeah.
there for about close to 4 years now. And so I moved to Visalia, and Mrs. Ulrich, now Mrs. Lewis, she lives in Visalia, has a business, Planing Meal, a.k.a. The Mill, great pizza, good vibes. Well, her and her
Planing
husband,
Mill.
yeah, her and her husband
I've
own
heard
that.
about their pizza.
And I didn't know that. We would go there just because I'm a fat boy. I eat everywhere, right? So we would go eat at that restaurant. She goes, hey, you
Good
should come by my
pizza?
spot. Oh, it's top notch. It's really good. And so I put two and two together, and you know, she's like, "Come by, like we own the place." And I was like, "Man, it's crazy how God works, man, just putting us in the right path." So, yeah, I had
And
Mrs. Ulrich.
she got to see everything
Yeah, yeah,
that played out for you later.
absolutely.
Did she come back and be like, I told you?
You know, I did have quite a few teachers. We were doing, speaking of Dinuba, we were doing a conference last year in Dinuba, and I had one, Miss Michigan. Shout out to Mrs. Michigan. She came up to me and she was in tears, and she goes, "I always," and I felt that, man, because in high school she would tell me straight, you know, you need to change your ways, man. You got a lot of talent. And then I can't forget my man, Dr. George Alvarado. Like that dude's
Dr.
my
George
brother.
Alvarado.
He's over at Fresno City College doing his dean thing, man.
Did you
I'm
meet
really
him in
proud
high
of him.
school or in college?
He was my counselor in high school, so he really told me straight, man. He would close the door and sometimes yell at me when I needed to hear that. And still to this day, he gives me crazy motivation. He's a big inspiration for me. So
Where can we find him now?
you'll find him at Fresno City College. He's
Dr. George Alvarado.
yeah, Dr. George Alvarado.
Rob Live, me and Jim, we're looking for you. We want you on this right here. We're gonna set you down here because we need to know. But that's why we teach, right, Jim?
Yeah, yeah.
Because we want to be able to recognize someone's potential and be that first to recognize it.
For sure.
I'm gonna just jump real ahead so I don't forget. My first speech class in college. We had to do a presentation, right?
Where'd you go?
Allen Hancock
Yeah,
Bulldogs.
community college. Let's do it.
Played
Yeah.
soccer there, and then my favorite class was a speech class, and I gave a speech about Belle Biv DeVoe. For those who don't know, Belle Biv DeVoe was 1/3 or 1/2 of New Edition, and they were backstage at a concert, and both their lead singers were leaving to go solo. You know, so Johnny Gill's going to get a solo album, Ralph Tresvant's getting a solo album. Now the 3 other members are like, "What are we going to do?" Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis saw them backstage and says, "Y'all a group right here." What? We're a group? We've been background this whole time. No, you're a group. Who has the biggest hit? When they all broke off, who has the biggest hit to this day? Right? Never trust a big button to smile.
Yeah.
So
the girl's poison. Yep.
But just like these people in your life, somebody recognized their potential.
For sure.
And when you get that, you're like, what, me? Paul's one for me. Paul's off camera as well. And he told me, do you remember telling me this about 3 months ago? He says, Rob, with your contacts and your networking abilities, you know, you could be compensated up to $500 an hour. I said, 500 who? Who's going to, right? And it kind of changed the way I move and think and stuff. And so to have these people in your life, what a blessing. Thank you for shouting them out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then high school, you get through it.
High school, went to Reedley College, so I'm a big time community college advocate. It's not where you start, it's always where you finish, right? The journey.
Oh, so you were still black and orange.
I was, man, and still doing the whole party thing, you know, joking out, wilding out.
So now, were you you said you like used to organize parties. Was this, or I don't know how old you are, but was this flyers you were passing out?
It was the old
flyers?
school networking, man. It was the flyers. It was, we had a graphic designer at that time. And at that time,
You had a team for
we had a team even for parties because we were like, we want to be the best and we want to promote the best. And so we definitely worked together as the best.
What was the name
team.
of your party crew?
We honestly didn't have a crew. We just like my nickname
I
back
felt like
in the
it was
day.
Wild Style. Was it
No,
Wild Style?
like my nickname back in the day was John.
John.
And so even in high school, I'd brand myself like when I went out for ASB president.
Yeah.
Like we would have stickers, and I paid with my own money. You know, work my part-time job at the pharmacy, and I
Vote
would
for John.
vote for no, it would be shake your bonbon, vote for John. So we would
Like
slap
that.
it all over, you know, everybody.
Mine was vote for Pedro.
Oh,
'cause I had
okay,
a
the
mustache.
Napoleon
No,
for sure.
Just kidding.
You know, and it was a good time. But then really, those days, you know, I wasn't taking school seriously, and I had a counselor. Shout out to Mario Gonzalez, who I always shout him out if I'm going back to
Mario
reading and speaking.
Gonzalez.
He just retired, and he's like that OG man that I really look up to as well. And then again, we all kind of intersect in those realms of he knew George Alvarado. And a lot of the people that I knew, you know, coming up into the game for college as a student. And so from there, went to community college. My first class was a communication class, and I loved it. Started asking more questions, a.k.a. stalking my professor, asking him questions after class, before class, during office hours.
Where did that hunger come from for knowledge?
My parents.
What did
both
they
of
do
them.
for a living? growing up?
Education, man.
So they're both teachers.
My mother was a teacher's aide in Salmo Unified School District, so
Yeah.
she would bounce from school to school, and she loved it because you get different flavors, different experiences from the kids or the admin, the faculty, and staff. And then my father, he retired at 40 years teaching. So he's
wow,
a super
40
OG.
years.
Yeah, they're living their best life right now in Salmo.
Where was he a teacher at?
So check this. He's from Sanger. So my dad's like a legend in Sanger. And so
The Apache.
Chuck Wagon, Sanger
What's his name?
Bangers, Emilio Hernandez.
Emilio Hernandez.
Yeah, shout out to him. He was like the first teacher that I've ever seen.
Okay, so I'm a
do that.
Raiders fan. We got to ask, right? Did he know Tom Flores?
You know what? They crossed paths, but I don't think he knew him like that. Like
Okay.
they've met a few times. But just really proud, as Sanger people are, man. Like if I didn't grow up in Salmo, I always consider myself like Sanger would be
Sanger,
my
yeah.
second home. And because a lot of my dad, his experiences and people that know him, and a lot of that directness, a lot of that communication, the ability, the skills, I learned a lot through him.
Just like watching him
Yeah,
move.
and my mama as well. You know, they complement each other like me and Maribel, me and Marty do.
Yeah.
And so it's
Marty,
two different
I
worlds.
love that. See, you don't know this because he was texting me, right? He didn't say Mighty Ben. You know what he said? He said, "Hey, I'm coming, me and my queen."
Yep, for sure.
That's, I'm taking notes.
There you go.
Hey, so I had a question. Who was your communications teacher at Reedley?
Man, I had Mrs. Main, I had James Thompson, so there was a
Little
few.
did they know.
So you had Mrs. Main.
Yes.
So here's
Mrs.
yes, I had Mr. Main.
Oh, they were
Yeah.
speeches.
Yeah.
What communication?
Yeah, I had him my first year going there.
Oh, you were a Tiger.
Yeah, and so
Nice.
the interesting thing was it's a long story, but I had him helping us out doing car commercials and everything else and stuff.
Okay.
And real awesome guy, right? Real kind of sheltered, kind of quiet.
Absolutely.
And then all of a sudden, everyone's telling me that, yeah, we have Mrs. May. I'm like, what? And so so he went through the process and stuff like that. So yeah,
He did. Shout out to
crazy.
him.
Shout out to Mr. May. Hey, let's get some DJ.
Yeah, no, he.
Where's it at?
Oh, here he
Hit it.
is.
There you go.
There
Do
he
you
is.
have the Little John
Yeah,
today?
so he's still there then. Or she did.
I don't think. No, I think she retired many years ago, but she was definitely influential. In me majoring in communication, and from there got my AA degree at Reedy College, and then transferred to Fresno State for my BA in communication, and then for Fresno State for my master's program in communication, and then earned my doctorate in 2020, the COVID year,
Doctorate, guys.
in educational
dude,
leadership.
doctorate.
Yeah, man. So
Man,
school's been
I
in my
lo-
blood since day one.
I love that you went all the way.
Yeah.
And it's a testament to the dedication. Like you can't just mess around and get a doctorate. Like you have to lock in.
You got to lock in, man. And I had a lot of great professors in my master's program in communication. Like the difficulties, and they keep it straight. They keep it 100 with you. If you're not good enough in that program, they'll tell you either got to step it up or we're going to step you out. And so
some
the
guys-
writing and research that I learned in communication, because I think a lot of people think we just do speeches, and it's like that's one of 13 classes that I've taught in communication, to be honest with you. And so
Yeah, I want to learn all that.
all of it is great. I mean, this
That's
is
why,
like
you being here, like he doesn't know it yet. I'm gonna be bugging him for the rest of his life. Paul
Absolutely,
already
man.
knows.
Yeah.
Jim already knows. I find people that I just fall in love with what they're doing, and then they can't get rid of me.
Yeah.
So just welcome me to the family because I'm gonna be bugging it.
Let's go. No, I'm the same way, man. I'm the same way. I think when you gravitate towards people and you find common interests, they have skills that you don't. And I think if you're humble enough and that ego could be pushed to the side, you're going to learn a lot from different
Yeah.
pockets of people. That's why I always encourage people to have different mentors, because not one person, me, I'm a believer. So my ultimate, leader, mentor is God. But other than that, people down here, everybody, when you talk to them, everybody's kind of on the same level when you find holes that they have. And it's really up to them as a person, as an individual, as a professional, I feel, to seek that kind of mentorship. So for me, I've always been that person, seeking other people that are better speakers than me. Math, was definitely not my thing all the way from like 6th grade to, I couldn't do it, and that's what I was afraid of in my doctoral program. We did a stats class, but it was the group around me. They're like, John, man, show up during study hours, be there a few
I'm gonna
hours
tell you
extra
my
early.
stats story in a
It was
second.
bad, but I
feel
did it.
like I'm talking like this is me because the math part I always struggled. So I haven't told this story. I don't think to anybody yet, but when I was at Menlo College afterwards. I transferred to a 4-year, right, small private one, and so because it's a smaller school, you have access to the professors, and I was struggling with stats, right, because it's always been difficult for me, and I was a psychology major, and I was getting desperate. I didn't know, like, I'm gonna fail. I didn't know how, and I need this to graduate. So I'm not proud of this, but I invited my stats teacher out to dinner for some Mexican food, and I guess the carne asada worked, right? And somehow I ended up.
Okay, all right.
Right? Did I ever tell you that story?
No, he didn't get choro or anything.
Yeah, no.
it was
Could
a
have failed you
female.
Make
real
him
quick.
sick, man.
It was a female.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so.
man, you're like ditching school. You're throwing all your
Yeah, she's watching
skeletons
today.
out there.
Thank you.
So
I won't say your name, but thank you. She knows who she is. But okay, so then you get your doctorate. At what point do you start with your career as a professor?
So in 2011, now that's a long story because Dr. Fraley, shout out to him, he's still at Fresno State. I did not have my master's yet, but the
Yes.
communication department, they have these things called TAs. And so it's not like you're stapling or picking up coffee, like you're going to be able to teach. And I was always asking, I was always inquiring, bugging the heck out of him. And so he saw my evaluations. Dr. Kevin Ayotte, he was also a mentor of mine in the communication department at Fresno State. He taught me like the business side. But both of those professors equally really believed in me. And so they pulled me in one day, and I thought I was in trouble. I was a grad student, and I still had about a year to go. And they go, close the door behind you. And so it was like
That's
it
always-
was a round
that's always
table.
really good or
I know.
really bad.
I was like, did I wear the Raider shirt? Like, what's going on? Is it like putting off the right vibe? Or so they pulled me in and they go, we just really believe in you. And we believe in you so much that we're going to give you 2 classes to teach before you get your master's.
Wow.
And so they go,
Before.
hopefully this could get you on a fast track to, you know, if you're going to be doing community college full time, that's a whole nother journey as well.
Yeah.
Whatever your plans are, but we want to see you in the classroom. And so they really, really granted me the opportunity, and I'll forever be thankful for Dr. Fraley and Dr. Ayotte, the 2 classes. And I always tell my students this, I haven't got my master's yet at that point, but when I tasted those 2 classes, man, I got a feel of what it was going to be like as a professor. Like, I'm playing my music. I'm making sure we're just like the house parties we talked about, 3 minutes ago. That creative vibe I've kind of always had. And there's like a million things that I do wrong, but setting an environment, just like you guys did with this, podcast. When viewers don't know, like when I walked in, me and my wife, there's music playing. And for me, I always have to play music.
Give me my props.
Yeah.
What I tell you? Okay, I'm gonna let him say.
Mm-hmm.
You were there in the car. I called him. What did I say?
Just
Do you
make it attractive.
There we go.
And that's what says a lot about everything. Is if you walk into a house and it's dead crickets, you're kind of like, okay, what kind of vibe is it? Same with a party. How many parties you go to where you walk in, you're like, okay, they don't even have music playing. They don't even have people chatting and talking and stuff. It's like you become the party. So you're like, all right, I got to do this.
Absolutely. And that's why I kind of miss the Coliseum. It was a dump for the Raider Nation, but it was our dump. And it was a party every single time we went,
party.
whether you're black, white, gay, straight, it doesn't matter. Like, it's Raider Nation for the party.
Hole.
And you could expect that. And so my wife, when I took her to the first game, she was just like, I don't know what you're bringing into me, because like these stereotypes, am I going to be, I have to pull out my mace, my pepper spray?
Yeah.
But at the end, she's like, yeah, this is a family I want to be in, man.
Yeah.
It's definitely a lot of stress, anxiety being a Raider Nation, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't have it any other way. And so with the class, that's the environment that I wanted to create, especially because you're teaching communication, which most students, they're super nervous. Their anxiety's through the roof. So
that was the most.
Yeah, setting that environment, and I learned that again from high school, my college days, early college days of partying, going to clubs.
Yes.
And just seeing the way the big time clubs, how they would treat their environment, or the big time professors, man, they were game changers. They go out, shake hands, fist bump.
Yeah.
Inquire about your weekend. Like, those are all the culmination of things that I wanted in my classroom. So I've definitely got that, and then it was off for another level of, now you're doing adjunct work. And when I say adjunct work, and people don't know because they see my schedule now, and they're like, do you even work? And I'm like, not really. Like, I have fun. But pulling like 18 to 20-hour days, and that's when me and Maribel got together during that time.
Oh, wow.
And so it was a lot
I
of stress.
applaud you,
Yeah,
Maribel,
man.
for dealing with those hours, right? It's like, are we still together? Like,
Right.
Are you dating Porterville College now?
Yeah.
Is it Porterville College?
I was everywhere. No, so if you name a college around here, I was at it. The only one that I haven't been at is Madera. But other than that, Fresno City to Reedley to Bakersfield College to Delano to Wonderful to I taught at Braman University.
Wait, Wonderful
which is Lemoore.
Academy?
Yeah, so I was in the Delano campus. So they
Wow.
had me there.
Wait, is that
COS?
that's a high school or is that
COS?
college?
Was that? What's that?
Is Wonderful high school, college?
They were doing the dual enrollment, and that
okay.
was early on. So now it's a real popular thing for
So
students.
that's Lost
to take.
Hills.
Uh-huh.
I've never been to Lost Hills.
No, I went to the Delano campus, but I've been to
Okay.
Lost Hills though too.
Where's
So,
it at? Like,
yeah, it's out there,
Wow.
but
like
everything
I'm from a big
primarily.
town, I'm from London.
I know. Everything
it at?
primarily in the Central Valley, like I have touched and really been inspired by students, because people think like that's a great opportunity for you to meet students, but I'm like, it's also, the way I see it, above all, are students that I get to connect with. Like, I'm inspired by small colleges to big colleges, and I was still teaching at Fresno State, so I was teaching like 8 to 10 classes a semester.
Man.
And so the grind was real, but I also wanted to keep my foot in the door, because full-time positions, especially in community college, it's like a mosh pit. Like, when one position comes out, they're not looking for second or third place. Like, you either get it or you don't. And they might not offer another full-time position in 10, 15 years, right?
Wow,
so
yeah.
you really got to get it. But at the same time, Maribel, Madi, she was doing like 4 jobs when I met her.
Really?
And so like her story.
What were your jobs, Letty? So she was at Pizza Hut. Wait, no, like when it was a restaurant with the real pan. Y'all don't know. If you were born
Yep.
after, I think, 1980, 1990, you don't know. Pizza Hut was an experience. Like, we sat down as a family. They brought out the pan. It was hot. It was different, right?
It was bougie, man. Let's be honest,
Yeah.
man. Like, you can
So
personal pan.
Yeah. To me, Pizza Hut and Sizzler was a date night.
Man.
After church, those are after
Yes.
church
After church?
dinners.
Yes.
So you were there. Where else, buddy? Yes, education. The WIC office. Man, custodian as well. Yeah, see, the WIC, some people are like, wait, what? You had your voucher. You could buy certain foods. I remember we fell on hard times. And I'll never forget this because it's something that serves as a reminder. And we were using the WIC coupons. And we were at kind of a bougie Vaughn's. And I remember the people behind me giving me that look like, can't you just pay with cash? You know, and it was just like, it hurt me. It bothered me. And I hang on to that now because, you know, obviously at some point you're able to be a little bit more blessed and you still see people who have to use WIC and stuff. And I think WIC now, it's different. I don't know if they have vouchers anymore. They have a card. But you learn to remember and have grace and patience because that was once where you were at.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember that. So thank you for the WIC. And I love people who work for WIC and do things with dignity. You know, nobody wants to struggle, but when it happens, the last thing you want is people looking down on you. And that day in Vaughn's, I felt people looking down on me. It hurt. So thank you for what you do.
Yeah, Marty, like she was working 4 jobs at that time, and that's really one of the many qualities, you know, that I was like really attracted to because I didn't really have to explain like, hey, I'm doing these 18, 20 hours. She was doing the same exact
knew the
thing,
grind.
you know, in a different grind, and she was going to school to be a teacher. And so, and, you know, obviously she knew my dream of becoming a communication professor full time. So we were just kind of really, both of our goals and our ambitions were intersecting at the same time. And so I think that's a godsend that, you know, he brought her into my life.
And this is at Fresno State.
It was at, so check this out.
She said you guys were opposites.
She doesn't remember. I saw her. I was
You don't remember?
She doesn't remember. At Reedley College, I was
man.
checking her out because I saw her in the parking lot a couple times.
Oh, so you transferred to Fresno.
Yeah, and I was like, dude, yeah, Bulldog born, Bulldog bred, let's do it. And so I saw her at Reedley, and then we actually had a class at Fresno State. And so that's
she don't remember you from Reedley.
No, and I think she wouldn't because I just saw her in the parking lot a couple times.
okay.
I think our schedules kind of
And
aligned.
you had like took mental note, like,
Yeah,
I'm
and I
gonna
was like,
meet her
who's
one
that?
day.
Yeah, and then at Fresno State, I was like, there she is. And so we have 2 different versions of how this went down.
Isn't it always like that?
I remember she was kind of a little bit like more shy to herself, and I was like, all right, I won't push anymore. And she says the opposite. She's like, I tried talking to you, and you seem too good for me. Yeah, like you were all bougie
He
yourself.
gave you the bougie vibe. Call him out, Mighty Bad, right here.
Yeah, so that's I may have amnesia when it comes to the context of that, but regardless, then we substitute taught, and it was she doesn't. I don't know if she remembers fully the context, but I remember we were both reaching. It was like a Hollywood movie moment. We were both reaching for the pen to sign in at Orange Cove.
Oh.
And I know you guys, you know, people over there,
OC.
OC, the real OC, I
real
like to say, the real OC.
Not
and
Orange
so,
County.
you know, we both signed in, and then I was like, and we started talking, and then, what are you doing for lunch? She's like, I'm gonna just sit in. I was like, well, can I go over there? Like, what's up? You know, so we started talking eventually, but Linda Martinez, shout out to her, she's recently retired. She would always call, because back in the day when you're substitute teaching, they would call you. Like, oh, Rob, I like you. Like, hey, I got this school. Jim, I like you. I'm going to get you this school.
Yeah.
And it really was. You had to talk to people, network to get those jobs for subbing. Now it's like all automated or whatever.
Yeah.
But she knew that we were like vibing off of each other. So she would purposely substitute both of us at the same school so we could run it. So, hey, mijo, like, I think Maribel's going to be be there. Like, what's up? You know?
Matchmaker,
She was a matchmaker.
Cupid.
So shout
She
out to
pulled out
Linda.
the arrow.
Yeah. For
Yeah,
sure.
Linda.
The little John. But, yeah, so that, you know, elevated our relationship, and then eventually the rest is history.
So here's my question. Linda, right?
Yeah.
Was she invited to the wedding?
You know, I think we did send her. I don't think she could make it, but I know we sent her because we all have mutual friends. Her daughter was actually teaching in the school district that Mari was teaching in at that time.
For her
too.
to see
So,
what it blossomed
I
into,
know.
right? That would have been cool.
And I always kept her, you know, the progress. Like, now we're dating, you know, it's official. I changed my Facebook, right? All that good stuff. And so, and then eventually
It's complicated.
Yeah.
Right?
What'd you
I
do
always
to
love
me?
that one. It's complicated.
Right? You gave me a toxico. What the heck?
So
right?
many questions, right?
Yeah. So during that journey, man, just enjoying it. That's why I got mad love for everybody in Central California. When I was out in Bakersfield, I know the common person is going to say, you know, some foul stuff, but Bakersfield has grown so much. I don't think that they've been there and they've experienced what Bakersfield has to
Yeah,
offer.
don't sleep on Bakersfield.
Don't. I mean, the
I got a
restaurant
shout out
scene.
to Bakersfield. Check this
Yeah.
out. So we went to Kansas, right? Eric Aldana, I love you. My best friend, Eric and Mike Esparza. But Eric moved to Overland Park, Kansas, And I took the family and said, hey, I want to see some of these states we've never been to. And so we're driving through for about 2 or 3 days, and we're stopping at all these places. And there was this one spot called Freddy's, right? And Freddy's has like the shoestring fries, and they have the real thin patty, all beef patty, right? And they double them up. Delicious. Probably like smash burger, whatever. We fell in love with Freddy's, and then we got back home. We were like, man, no more Freddy's, because they were all out in the Midwest, Kansas area. And then for some reason, I was like, let me Google, where's the nearest Freddy's? Guess where it's at? Bakersfield has a Freddy's.
Okay.
Got to try Freddy's, guys, out in Bakersfield.
Nice.
Freddy, hey, if you want to sponsor this episode, Freddy's, we're right here.
For sure.
We're here for it. And the thing that is really distinctive about them, too, is that they have what's called frozen custard. To me, custard was always kind of like a different kind of sour pudding.
Different texture, yeah.
But this tastes like the milkshakes and all that other stuff.
Sure.
And the only one is Bakersfield. And then the only Golden Corral around us,
Yeah.
Bakersfield.
Yeah. I know.
I'm all restaurant, so I don't.
Oh, that's all us, man.
Never mind the educational institution.
Right. No, me and Marty, we do food. Like, we go to different places.
Foodies.
We're big time foodies.
So we have
man,
a other channel, right? If you look behind you there, it says Two Hungry Teachers.
Yeah, yeah.
So we go out and try different foods, right? Back in the day. And the reason I bring this up is Sanger. We went to find the best Frito Belt. Where did we find it, Jim?
Yep, it's Sanger.
Chuck wagon?
Chuck Wagon.
Chuck Wagon.
For sure, for
We
sure.
tried 3 different spots, and that was the best one.
That's man. Yeah.
Okay, so now I want to talk about how you became a professor, and then you're like, I'm going to go ahead and create the #1 motivational speaking company in the Central Valley. How did that come about?
Yeah, so in 2014, 2015, I was doing that grind of adjunct work, teaching 8 to 10 classes. But I was at Fresno State, and I was at Doghouse Grill with some of my colleagues, living the life,
Doghouse.
man.
There's another spot.
Yeah, man. And so we were having lunch, and then I get a call from NBC, and it wasn't the NBC, like those are my brothers and sisters here in Fresno, but it was like NBC Rockefeller Center, New York.
NBC.
And so like myself, it didn't come up as
National television.
Yeah, it didn't come up as an NBC number though, and I
Yeah.
always give my number out to everybody. So like my students, I thought it was a crank call, and so they're like, "Is this Professor H?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And so they're like, "Hey, we just want to congratulate you on being nominated. You're going to be in the top 25 in the country for professors.
What?
And you've been doing your thing. Congratulations." And so I was like, "Okay."
Yes.
But I wish that there would be some applause for that. But the thing is, Rob, like I hung up on the person because I was like, all right, cool. If it's official, like email me all the details. And she was super peppy, and I feel bad now.
Yeah.
But she's like, okay, I'll do that. And I was like, all right. And I just completely forgot about it. My
Yeah.
colleague's like, who's that? I was like, I don't know, some crank call or whatever. And then I get back to my office about 2 hours later, and sure enough, it's
There's
like
the
signed,
logo of the
sealed,
peacock.
delivered. And there was a number there. And so immediately I got emotional. But then I was like, okay, I got to apologize because I hung up on her. And so I was like praying, man, to God that like that number that's in that signature, email signature was
Yeah.
her number. And sure enough, I call like on the 3rd ring, she picks up, peppy as ever. And I was like, okay, it's her. And I go, hey, this is Professor Hernandez from Fresno State. Just want to apologize. He called a couple of hours, gave me some life-changing news. And she goes, oh, no. And she didn't even miss a beat. She's like, oh, no, it's no
What
problem.
was her name?
I have it in my email still. I think Stacy Kleinbaum. I do remember Stacy Kleinbaum. Shout out to her.
Stacy, thank you.
Yeah, Stacy was super awesome, and she goes, the top 25 list is not going to be out till next week. And my journey, man, losing my grandmother, my grandfather, really kind of just giving my life to God. Like at that point, it was May 31st, 2009. I've been a believer.
That's when you gave your life?
That's when I gave
Can
my
we
life.
spend some time on that?
Yeah, man. Let's do it. So during that time, I'll just be honest with you, as I always am, man, I was really dealing with alcohol. So I was a big time alcoholic. I would wake up
party
sometimes.
scene,
The party scene. And to be honest with you, Rob, like for me, I've always been that organizer, but I couldn't enjoy a party until like the very end of the night. So all my friends here, wherever we were partying at, right, they would always enjoy it, but then they would look at me and be like, hey, man, ease up. Like, relax a little bit. And so the only time I would relax was at the end of the night where everything was done.
Yeah.
And so because a lot of the things, even though, we weren't doing what we were supposed to at that time, I should have been focusing that energy on my studies.
Yeah.
But it was always like, is this going to go right? If there's something wrong, then that's the end of our
Someone's
parties.
got to pay the DJ.
Exactly.
The light guy better show up.
Exactly.
The kegs.
Yep.
Wait, was it party balls?
No, it was
You remember
kegs like
party
you
balls?
said. It was kegs like you said, man. I remember those though.
You guys remember those? The party balls had a little pump.
Yeah, they didn't last very long.
Yeah.
Bring back the party balls.
Yeah, for a party of 3.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so during that time, then once we hit the house parties, we were too young, but when we hit the clubs when I was like 21, 22, I was doing music back in that
Yeah,
time.
and you had a music career. I want to hear
I
some
mean,
of your
dude,
stuff.
the production was insane. Like I rap good.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say I'm great at all, but DJ Fi, shout out to him, DJ FAI. He was my younger brother that just took my sound to a whole nother level. Like his father comes from a musical background. He's in Chicago right
Is he
now.
still producing?
So check this out. DJ Fi is on tour right now with Kanye West
Kanye
and Ty
West.
Dolla $ign. So
Wow,
absolutely,
he's
he's
still
doing his
going
thing.
strong.
And Marty
Is he
got
from
to
the
meet him.
Valley?
He's from Fresno. He's from
Wow,
Fresno, man.
we
We
got a
lives
lot of
over by
talent in
Sunnyside.
Fresno.
We do, and so working with him, we elevated each other.
Was this
because
high school?
This was college.
College.
And so it was like I knew a lot about branding and marketing, and honestly, not from school, but like obviously the house parties and like the music. You had to actually go. It wasn't like putting something out on stream. Like you had to physically go to radio stations, get rejected, and keep doing that. And shout out to B95. We were like the first ones to be locally like spun. So you would hear like Lady Gaga, then you hear my song right after that.
Wow.
And I didn't know anything about
What
image.
would be the single that we would hear on the radio
Ah,
at the
man,
time?
we had a song, and it was really all about club life, dude. It was called "Get You Hot," and
Get You Hot.
that thing was like #1 for like 4 months, and so it was cool because
Get You Hot.
5'5", Little John back then. I had a big old head because I was like, I'm walking
What
in
was
the
your
club.
rap?
John. I just went by John. So John Hernandez,
That's
and
a good one.
we would just
Get You
brand
Hot.
everything. Yeah, so that one we did a song designed for Central California. So we shouted out Sanger, Clovis, Bakersfield, Hart Park, Bakersfield. One of my producer buddies is like, you should do something for summertime. And I'm a big fan of oldies, so I kind of took it back. Like, it was cool, man. I mean,
Did you sample?
we did. Yeah, we sampled a couple, not on that song, but there was a couple songs that I sampled some music on. And some of the producers, like Fingas, he does our song for Rise to It. And Fingas has worked with Snoop Dogg, like you name a rapper.
Yeah,
like
I've heard the
Warren
song.
G.
I like it.
Yeah,
That's the intro to your
That's
podcast.
the intro. So I never got to work with him in my music
We
career.
need a song, Jim. We need a song.
Yeah.
I sing the hook. I get to sing the hook.
The thing is, I wish I would have got to work with him when I was doing my music, but it was cool because now in my career I get to really like work with him and,
Yes.
and artists that I look up to. But yeah, we were doing our thing in music, and then May 31st, 2009, I got pulled over, if you know what I mean. Had a couple waters too many.
Yeah.
And you just spend that night alone. Well, at least I did in that experience, and that's when I was tired. I remember vividly getting pulled over, and I remember thanking the cops because I was just tired of being tired. Like I was tired of just the stress. I was tired of like a lot of things. I was unhappy, even though a lot of people would see me happy.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm a big advocate for mental health. So I'm glad that you guys got this right
Yeah.
here too. And so I didn't know how to deal, didn't know how to cope. I think growing up in my time as well, men didn't speak on mental health at
Yeah.
all, And so it's like, get over it. You're a man. Like, what are you supposed
Mm-hmm.
to do? So, in one of my classes in interpersonal communication, we got like 2-3 chapters on mental health exclusively. So it's beautiful that I get to teach that and be real with my students, because a lot of times the professors, they're incredibly book smart. I'm not going to take that away from them, but the life experience maybe not be resonating with the students directly. And so just me being vulnerable, I think, is one of my strengths. And again,
Amen.
I'm not perfect, man, but I think that's what people want to hear. They don't want to hear the perfect story. They don't want to hear, they want to hear perfection. When I
Yeah.
see speakers, I want them to mumble. I want them to play like a comedian off of like the crowd. I want all of that in my experience. That's just me personally. you know?
Man, you're speaking. You're speaking to me. I was talking to somebody yesterday about this, and I always tell Jim, because Jim asked me in the beginning, how far you want to go with this? I said, to the moon.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people ask why, and part of it is because in my classes and in my personal life, I'm very transparent about a lot of my mistakes and things I've done, and people know. I kind of joke, but my whole thing is like, I'm a energetic hot mess, right? Paul knows how
I'm with you,
disorganized
bro.
I am, and yet we're able to still do some of these things. And in my classes at school, I want them to see the flaws, and I talk about, hey, today I might have a tough day. We're still going to learn, but I'm having a tough day today. And the reason I'm so dead set on, getting to a certain level of notoriety or recognition is because if I'm able to do that, and everyone along that journey saw the imperfections, now they go, oh, it's possible for me too, because I knew him. He was a hot mess.
For sure.
So if he did it, then it's wide open for me. That's the ultimate gift I think I can give anyone, is that belief in themselves based on the flawed journey they watched me go through.
Right.
And that's exactly what you're speaking to.
That's it, man. You know, and people don't really ask that question. So shout out to you and Jim, because a lot of podcasts, and I'm very selective, to be honest with you, on the pod. And I told you
No,
this.
yeah,
and I was like, you guys have really like
Can I tell
developed.
them what we talked about?
Go for it, yeah.
Okay, so Jim, I don't know if I told you this story, but I said, hey, you know, I'm having a tough time figuring out who's just being polite. And who, because sometimes, you know, people will politely reschedule with us. Oh, hey, I'm real busy right now. Get back to me in this, right? And so you said, get back to me in May.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, is this a polite no thank you? You know, because we're not, you know, maybe not big enough platform, et cetera. Or is this a real, genuine? And so I told H, because we talked really good for like an hour. I felt like I was talking to an old friend. Yeah. And he says, well, you know, I can't really speak on that because I'm real straight up. I would have told you no.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was like, well, thank you. And he meant it, because he said, hey, hit me up in May. We hit him up in May. Here he is.
Yeah.
I have other people still rescheduling.
There you go.
I don't know if it's polite, right? I don't know.
He's like, I'm not going to waste your time. I would just say no.
And so I felt
said
very
no.
honored, you
Yeah.
know, that you said yes, because you say a no to a lot of people. And I'm assuming everyone's asking because, you know, you are someone who's nationally recognized. Your company's #1 in the Central Valley. You're at schools like almost all the time.
Yeah.
And so when you choose who you're going to work with, what is the criteria?
So the wifey, you know, that's why it's, you know, for guys that are married, it's just your wifey's smarter than you, man. There's no other way to put it, man. She's like the backbone of all this. And so
Yes,
early
amen.
on,
The queen.
Yeah, the queen, like Maribel, she was just like, you really got to get experts in their lane. You think that they can speak, but you find out on stage, and you're the one that designed this, so you're going to take the hit that they can't. And again, it's a gift. It's a skill level that takes time to get to.
Yeah.
And so, you know, listening to her feedback and definitely, you know, going through teams to get to our team. Because any business, you're going to go through teams to get to your team. You think people are going to ride with you, or they want it as bad as you want. But if you have your own business, no one's going to replace, like, that's your business, right?
Yeah.
And so no one's going to want it as bad as you, or want to succeed or see the vision.
You know Gary Vee?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So Gary Vee, for those who don't know him, is on all platforms, and he's really a great entrepreneur.
Serial entrepreneur, yeah.
Yeah, but he said something that is very reminiscent of what you're sharing. He said, don't expect anyone to care about your business as much as you do. Because at the end of the day, you are the most invested by nature. If you have someone working under you, don't expect them to put the same amount of hours and to love it as much as you do, because you're benefiting more than anyone else. So it's kind of ridiculous to say, hey, I need you to love my kid as much as I love them.
Exactly.
That's my kid. That's my baby. Your business is your baby.
Exactly, it is. And, you know, for the development of this team, I was thinking of something at this level, and that's when, bring his name back again, it was Dr. Kevin Ayotte at Fresno State's like, how much do you charge to speak? Because now that this national attention has hit, I'm sure your emails are going crazy. And I'm like, they are. He goes, but John, you've been doing this. You're not a new speaker. You teach communication, but you've been speaking. Because there's a lot of people, no disrespect, but they're professors of communication, but they just do the classroom and then they bounce. So that's it.
They don't have the real audience.
Yeah, and so Kevin was so, you know, very genuine with me. I mean, that dude I would call him in to evaluate me. So any professor that's trying to come in the game, do not wait for your evaluations. Always seek those evaluations. Like, hey, man, I'm going to bug you again next semester, right? Or even other faculty. Like, hey, I'm an English professor. I don't know anything about communication. Just tell me what you see and write down the things that I need to work on. And so Dr. Ayotte, I remember when I asked him to evaluate my classroom, and this wasn't an official evaluation. He had like 3 pages of notes for me. And I was like, I didn't know how to take that, because this was right after the national attention. And I was like, who do you think you are, man? Like, I'm the one that's getting the class. You know, that was my brain back then.
Yeah.
But then it went to 2 pages, and then it went to 1 page, and then it went to 1 paragraph. And I always remember the last evaluation he gave me. He just said, keep doing what you're doing, with a little smiley face. And I remember he pulled me to the side. He goes, I'm from Pittsburgh, John, and I don't know half of what you're saying because you're fluent in slang. He goes, I'm not from Central California. He goes, but it doesn't matter what I think. Your students know exactly what you're saying, and you resonate with them. And so I always have this quote. I always say, good communication you could hear, good communication you could see, but phenomenal communication you could feel. And so when I'm speaking, I'm not going to be the most eloquent speaker on the stage, but you're going to feel me, right? And so I think that...
Okay, so that's a timeout.
Yeah, go for it.
That's a bumper sticker.
Yep.
We talk about this all the time on here. That
You gotta.
we're going to create bumper stickers. You just gave us a gem.
Let's go.
Like anyone who wants to see this episode, we're going to mark this moment.
Right.
Because that's a game changer. Thank you for
It's
sharing.
a game
that.
changer, and you're in this speaking lane. And I know we've talked about it. You deal with a lot of egos, and myself. I mean, we're all in it. Trying to get the next gig or whatever. And for me, I never thought like that. I always saw speakers, and then I would see them fizzle out. And so, especially in Central California, and that was the whole thing with personal and professional development that I would see outside of Central California. For teachers, educators, we know what that is. But when I tell like a lot of our people here, and they're like, "What is that?" And so for 2 years, this whole identity of what Rise to It was all over the place. I remember like my elevator pitch was like 20 minutes to schools, and they were like, "So what do you do?" And like finally, my buddy was just like, "You do motivational speaking then, like lead with that,
Yeah.
and then add in your DJ, add in the environment, add in
Yeah.
the giveaway." Took 2 years for that. So like that's the number one thing for speakers. Who are you? Give me your elevator pitch right
You
now.
said that to me
because
the
I ain't
other
gonna
day.
do. Yeah, and I ask people if
You
they're
blew my
really
mind.
serious about speaking and taking it to the next level. And the conversation we had, I'll share with our viewers. The speaking game right now is oversaturated, where people are just calling themselves speakers
Yeah.
and influencers or models. And this is no disrespect to anybody, but I took disrespect in early college when I had a personal trainer who was my buddy. So shout out to Titus and Salma.
Titus.
He's now in Fresno.
Man, that is a trainer name.
It is. He's
Like,
yoked, man.
Titus just sounds yoked. The
Yeah.
name.
I was just telling the wifey you're coming over here, my queen. We were coming over here, and I go, Titus. I never seen him on the business level. He was always my buddy. So when I went to go in the gym, I remember he was like, "All right," and he talked to me a different way, and I took disrespect, and I was like, "Yo," and then eventually, I'm trying to do what he's doing. This is my first day in the gym, and so he pulled me to the side. He goes, "John, like, I want you to understand, this is my livelihood. Like, this is what I take serious." And if you're not going to take it as serious, like, just hit the door, bro, and we're cool. Like, we're still homies,
Dang.
But this is what I do. And if you can't respect that, if you can't eat the right way, and sure enough, I'm not doing that right now. But what I'm saying is, back then, I understood that there's levels to this. And so for this, it's easy for someone to call themselves a speaker, but they haven't maybe perhaps got to those levels. They haven't tricked those L's.
Can I share the video?
Which one?
The video you sent me?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So-
Absolutely.
We're talking about people easily throwing out this speaker label, and you go, "Hey, this is what I'm talking about." So
Yeah.
the video that you sent me was Marlon Wayans, and he's talking about T.I., who's known as a famous rapper. You guys know T.I., right?
Yes.
So T.I. says, "Hey, I want to get into comedy," and he's a famous rapper who could probably book some big shows just on the fact that he's known for music. But what T.I. does instead is he starts booking small spots, right? Because he's building himself now in a different industry, a different discipline.
Yeah.
And so instead of taking the easy route and saying, "Hey, I'm T.I., give me the Madison Square Garden and let me tell jokes," he's like, no, I need to build up to that. And that really opened me up to going, hey, I am on the right path. Because I've been on the Chitlin circuit for
Yeah.
comedy people like this. You don't get paid. You're a
Right.
small play. I've been doing the Chitlin circuit as a speaker for 10 years. This school, Eddie Valero, thank you for seeing
Eddie.
all his stuff. Like Eddie books me once a year. I
Eddie's
don't know if it's
dope.
out
I
of
love
friendship or pity, but he books me every year.
He's great.
And so I get my reps. I get about 5 a year. And then sometimes, they go well.
Right.
And sometimes they don't go well. Like a comic will bomb.
Right.
Now, Eddie Murphy's brother, Charlie Murphy, the late Charlie Murphy, he tells a great story. And here's what he said. He said, "Hey, I was starting out as a comedian, and I'm doing it the way you're supposed to at levels. I'm at the small, and I killed my first time. Killed it. Everybody laughing, standing ovation. Then I go out with the same set a couple weeks later, different venue, different audience, different energy, and I bomb.
Yeah.
So I call my brother Eddie. I'm like, "Eddie, man, they booing me, man. I got off stage. I'm embarrassed." And he said that he thought Eddie would have a sympathetic ear. He's my brother. And he said, Eddie's like, "Stop your crying. Who do you think you are?" He's like, "I'm Eddie Murphy, and I bombed. All these great comedians, we all bombed. It's part of the thing. So you think that you're going to come into this game and never bomb?"
Exactly.
Charlie, where's your ego?
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of getting like, a hug from his brother, he got told off.
I think that's a lesson learned for educators as well, because
Yes.
you could have a powerful. I hate my first periods because I know I'm going
Liberty,
in.
we don't mean that.
I'm going in with trial and error. It's like, okay, I
Yeah.
got this lesson going. I'm all fired up, and I go in, and they're still waking up.
Mm-hmm.
They're still kind of like, but by second or third
First
period,
period energy.
Oh, yeah, and right after lunch, oh, dude, it's all on, man. These kids are all fired up, and we're doing it.
So Jim's onto something right now, context. Like, I'm a big fan because for me as an educator, if I went in your classroom, I'd be like, those kids were half asleep though. Like, if I did cartwheels right now, they still wouldn't wake up.
Yeah.
And especially nowadays, right? You really got to get them engaged, right? But the average person is going to say, I don't know if Jim has it. I don't know if Dr. H has it. I don't know if Rob has it. It's like, no, there's so much context that goes on in speaking.
Thank you for
right?
saying
The
that.
behind the scenes. And, but again, the bombing's part of it. I did a lot of freebies at the beginning.
Tell him the one that you told me where you went to Seaside.
I went to a high school. We'll bleep that out. I went to a high school near Monterey, California.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing, because I always try to see the silver lining in everything. Like, honestly,
Yeah.
I do. And I still keep in contact with a grip of those students, but I know what it really feels like to really bomb, right?
Yeah.
And that was early on in my career. So I had my photographer out there, and that was like, one of my probably first paid gigs to go outside of Central California and bring it for 2 high schools. And so the first day, let's just say this, it did not go as planned. My Uber driver, when we were going over there, we're like, hey, do you know where you're going into right now? And I'm like, yeah. And I was like, this is a high school. He goes, no, this is nationally ranked as one of the worst high schools in the country.
Oh my God.
And again, though, I'm going to be real with you. In my mind, because I'm so used to seeing Tony Robbins, or shout out to rest in peace, Dr. Wayne Dyer. When I grew up, I was like, I got this, man. I got the clout now. I'm going to be moving and grooving.
I picture you getting out of the car
man.
and looking at the campus, and then Gangster's Paradise plays, right?
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah,
Been
dude.
spending most time, and he's like, "Where am I?"
The thing that scared me, though, Rob, it was crazy because I get there and there were no teachers in the gym. And so it was just me and the custodian. The custodian was like, he's looking me up and down like, this 5'5" guy ain't gonna do anything. And he goes, you do know what we're ranked for? And I go, I heard. He goes, and he
Another
goes,
warning.
here you go, man. He gave me the mic. He's all, good luck. And I realized there's no administration. There's no teachers. It was just me. And when I say a crowd, it was overcrowded, like fire hazard to the T. It was like 3,000 students.
Wow.
And I would rather have taken booze because as soon as I get on the mic, they're looking at me like, you ain't going to change my mind. And backs are just turned against me. So I would have rather taken
What
a
was
boo.
your opening story?
I don't even
line?
remember, bro. I just remember that was the longest half an hour of my life. That was the half an hour felt like 3 decades, bro. So, I'm thankful for that opportunity. Then 24 hours later, I was at a different high school and did well. So,
Yeah.
but then I look at the context, like Jim was explaining. The teachers were there. The principal was there. He comes to me. The principal came to me. He's like, how'd yesterday go? And I was like,
Everybody knew, but-
Everybody knew. He was like, don't feel bad. And he's like, you got to shake that off, though, because they're
Yeah.
going to be here in about 20 minutes.
Yes.
And so that's where, as an experienced speaker, eventually you get to of like, I got to shake that off. And I'm probably actually the worst one out of our team that could shake stuff off, So,
But you do.
but you do. It's part of the game. But
I'm
going
gonna
back
tell
to
you something
yeah,
real
go,
quick,
Go for it.
and I don't know if you ever. I'm sure you do because you're a sports fan. You kind of. I always use sports examples, right? Mm-hmm. And so my 2 sons and my daughter, I encouraged all of them to do baseball or softball,
Right.
Because the mental side to it.
Yeah.
Like when you're batting, it's just you out there. There's no one to blame, and you strike out more than anything else,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so you have to have that mindset that I just struck out. I'm not feeling good about myself, and now I got to go make a play on the field.
Yeah.
And if you can't separate the two, right? And so I always told them, do not be defined by your last at bat.
Mm-hmm.
Take your body of work, right? And so, hey, if you hit well for the last 3 games and now you've struck out 3 times in a row, does that instantly now mean you're not a good batter?
Exactly.
But as you said, it's context.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at your whole body of work, you nationally recognized, right? You've had all this success. One bad outing does not define you.
Right. Even 5, 10, because, the amount of gigs that we do, you're going to have a lot of, that just go okay. But you're also going to be having the okay, like Little John okay, where, like, you feel that one. And that was a good time. So I think learning that, again, going back to what I was talking about with Titus, him understanding like this is my livelihood. His identity was like, this is me. This is what I do. I work out. I'm not just trying to do this as a hobby. And I joke around with my students. I'm like, how many times do you think I go to the gym? You know, this fat boy right here. And like some students, you know, they're giving me grace. They're like 4 times. And I'm like, you're going to get extra credit for that one, right? But I got some students that keep it a buck. And they're like, maybe you haven't gone this week or weeks, Dr. H. And I'm like, good. I'm glad that you're honest. I go, so I don't call myself a gym rat. I'm not putting in the work like Tide is.
Yeah.
But we live in a society where everyone's a speaker because they did it twice, you know, in a year. And I'm like, no disrespect. Again, it's the gym. I don't go to the gym, my headband, Rob, and my new shoes and be like, yo, this is what I do.
Yeah.
I'm barely learning. And so there's that learning curve that I think a lot of people need to go. And for teaching as well.
So let's go to the other side of that, because I thought about what you said, right? And I pulled a move a couple months back because of this story. And I told Jim this story. I think I've said it on the podcast a few times, but everyone knows Prince, right? Prince and the Revolution. And so Prince early on, he was hanging with this guy named Mickey Free. And Mickey Free was with Shalimar. He was a guitarist, but they're fellow musicians. And he used to kind of be in Prince's band at one point. So Prince doesn't have a record deal. He's just getting started, and he's hanging out with Mickey Free. They're both unknown musicians. They pull up to a gas station, a 7-Eleven, whatever. And Prince goes, hey, Mickey Free thought Prince is getting out and going in the store with him. And Prince goes, hey, when you go inside, can you get me a 7-Up? He's like, no, you're not going to go with me? He's like, no, I don't want to get noticed right now. He's like, fool, you ain't even, nobody knows you, right?
There you go. Yeah.
But he found out later, he understood later that Prince was trying to manifest and believe that he was something before he became that thing. And so that's where I went, okay, I got to start calling myself a social media personality. We got 50-something episodes. We haven't even got monetized yet. But
so context about that, sorry to interrupt, but you did 50. This is what I was impressed with in our conversation. You've done, let's just say 60 in how long?
Oh, yeah. Was it a year
Just
and a half?
over a year.
That's
Over a year.
that's like 10 years of a regular podcast of work.
Really?
As well, yeah, especially in Central California. Like there's not a lot that are out there that do what you guys do on a heavy level, right?
Wow.
And so kudos to both of you guys because it does take a team, right?
Yeah, it's a
but
team.
to stay relevant and to stay consistent, that's all it is, man. Is consistency. You're gonna have bad days, you're gonna have some good days.
You know, and one of the things, one of the things that I've told Rob when we started this is, I mean, I teach this type of stuff, right? Broadcasting and everything. And what is a thrive to me is I'm having fun. If you don't have fun doing it, if you don't have fun as a teacher, you don't have fun doing the job you're doing, your life's going to get cut short of just depression, everything. And so I enjoy it because of how much fun the people we meet. We're having these guests that are like, and I mean, we're crying on shows. We're like, fired up on shows. I mean, all these things that we've said before, but it's fun. And if you don't have a career or a passion about whatever you do, it shows. And that's why I think this show's going to thrive.
I wish you had told me that earlier because all 3 of my kids have walked away from at least one sport, right? Because I had them in sports since day one. You know, growing up being an athlete, you kind of define yourself by that, and you make sure your kids play things. What I stopped doing was checking in as whether or not they're having fun. And so when it got a little bit older, the 2 boys walked away from baseball. My daughter walked away from softball because it stopped being fun. And I wasn't monitoring that correctly. To me, it was about accomplishment, achievement, all those great lessons. But none of those matter if you don't enjoy what you're doing, right? So I was grateful to Jim because, again, he keeps it fun.
Yeah. No, you guys, again, any relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship or you're with your homies, like I think that the balance should be super imperative. That's like the most critical thing of any success is just having a nice balance. People that are going to be real with you, they're going to be honest with you, they're going to be transparent. They're going to hurt your feelings at times.
Yeah.
Like I love those kinds of people. Like if I got a booger in my nose, big old moco, I know a lot of my students aren't going to say anything, but there's going to be that one that's going to be like me, like, yo,
thank you for not letting me walk her.
H, you got a big old Shrek in your nostril right here, bro. You got to take that out. That's not sexy
I've
right
never
there.
heard that.
And so I gravitate because I grew up with a father like that. Like my
was like
dad
that.
knows it. everybody in Sanger and everybody in Sanger knows him. They'll be like, your dad like is super direct still to this day. But I think he's
But
mellowed
with a
out.
heart, though, right?
With a heart.
Where's
I
he
mean,
coming from?
Man, I mean, he had, you guys remember this, like in school, he used to have his students do duck walks, like physical, like go run me 3 laps. Like nowadays, you try that, about you go run 3 laps, right? Like, but at the same time, the comments, man, like there was one video we posted of my pops, and we were actually, I think, in Fresno State or near Sanger somewhere. I can't remember, but all kinds of Sanger alumni. Hey, is that Amelia? Man, I loved him. But remember when he did this? That was funny. You know, like, I don't know if it definitely would not swerve nowadays, but I think like the love, like the deep love and passion he had for his career resonated with his students. And so they felt that, man. And that's what we try to do at Rise to It. When I was, developing this team, I just didn't want to do this alone. And I seen speakers fall off, or I seen them self-proclaim themselves as speakers. I want the longevity of this. How do I recreate my classroom? And that's what me and Dr. Ayat talked about. He goes, you need to charge, man. And I go, what do I charge? He goes, I don't do that. He goes, I teach communication. You're speaking though now, so figure that out.
How did you figure out the business side?
It's almost like when you prove yourself so much, like people won't bat an eye. But if they flinch when you tell them a number, there's some work to be done. Nowadays, by the grace of God, most people don't flinch. And, just a couple weeks ago, there was a school district. They're like, so what's your pitch? And I told my wifey this, and she goes, yeah, I know you would say that. I go, we don't do pitches anymore. Like, I'm done with those. Like, this is what we have to offer. The body of work's there. So maybe we won't be the right one for you. Maybe you do need like one speaker, right?
Yeah.
But think about that, Rob. Like, speakers are just one person. If you're not feeling them, now the whole experience is, it's heading south real quick. With us, we have such a variety. And so, DJ Sal, he came in first day. He's been our A1 since day one. And he's a big-time business person. Bliss Events Group, he does some high-end weddings,
You guys bring in guests as well, though, sometimes, right?
Sometimes it's Sal or some of his boys can't make it because I trust in whatever Sal says.
So there's a substitute line?
There's always a substitute to a substitute to a substitute. There we go.
Where do we sign up for that? Now, here's how I know. Mm-hmm. Because when we went to the brother to brother, I saw you, I saw your team, and then I had to go back to school because I was playing hooky, right? I was like, I got to get back to work. And then I talked to my boys, and they're like, oh, yeah, we love this guy. And then they were like, there was this kind of, I think they described him as a funny white dude. And then I looked at your team, I go, I don't see a funny white dude in here.
Yeah.
Must have been a guest.
For sure.
Guest. So how does the guest thing work? How do you plug people in?
It's almost like it's a coach at that same time. Like tonight, OKC and Indiana's playing, right? Well, OKC plays a fast game. So how's Indiana going to balance that out? That starting lineup that worked to get us to this point may not work for tonight. So I always try to look at the lineup. Like if it's little kids, like Mr. R is going to be, the spotlight right there. He's freaking great. Like I love Mr. R watching him. DJ Sal does his thing, of course.
So DJ Sal spins the records, but then also takes the mic.
Yeah, because he's a business person too. And so that's the blessing. It's almost like a point guard coach. And I could throw it anywhere, and there's going to be a bucket made, and that's the confidence.
Andre's accomplished comedian as well as a radio personality.
For sure. Yeah. And that was one of those things where I invited him to my classroom, and when he saw the environment, like, okay, I was intimidated to come to college, man. Like, I didn't know who you were. Yeah. And that was like 15 years ago. And then we've rocked ever since. But then when I would invite him to my colleges, because I worked everywhere, I worked everywhere. I saw him becoming more of a speaker. He was becoming more vulnerable. And so I was like, dude, you need to think about doing this. And then
he invented the love bell, right?
Was that I don't know. I don't know. I gotta ask him.
With the cowbell, ding, ding, ding.
He might. Did
I tell you that when I was doing the library project that I was able to go on the show with him?
That was beautiful, man. By the way, yeah.
Thank you. Cool. It was him and Greg.
Okay. Yeah.
What was funny is I had been gone from the Valley for a while. So Greg, back in the day, he would be doing the club spots. Yeah, this is G-Man, right? And I didn't put the two together. Like, oh, that's G-Man.
Yeah.
And then Dre, I had never met, but I remember being on the show, and he had like a cowbell, and we were talking. And again, because I was coming from L.A., I lived there for 10 years. I wasn't able to listen to local radio, and so I was talking. And I remember I said something, and he was like, "Ding, ding, ding, ding."
Yeah.
I was like, "What's that?" He goes, "That's a love bell, man." And then we found out we're Raiders fans.
Yeah.
I
heard for sure.
So you have all this dynamic on your team. When you go to a school and you lay it out, is there a specific order in which everybody comes out, like, how do you know the lineup? Because, we talk about great bands.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm Journey, right? What songs am I going to play first?
Right.
And how the order, that's strategic.
I'm always filling out the environment. So I'll ask the directors, how's your students? And so sometimes I'll play more of an MC role. Like at Brother to Brother, ultimately we came down to our lineup, and I was like, I don't know if they need another speaker because that's another 20 minutes of information. I was like, I'd rather get to the comedy side because we brought Darren Carter out from Hollywood, and that was the white boy with flavor. I love Darren. And then Andre, and I was like, a double dose of them I think would be great to finish off the daytime.
How'd you get the comedy team?
Again, man, when you're working part-time, like all those connects, I always wanted to make sure that I'm bringing events. And again, it goes back to the house party days, bro. Like I wish I could say and lie to people.
Yeah.
I learned a lot of my book smarts through the street smarts, man. Making that hustle, you got to get out there and you got to meet people. So at every college that I was at, I always brought like a comedy event, and I have a nonprofit. WeCom, we're going to be coming to Porterville College this semester, where it's a nonprofit. We're going to go out in the community, shake hands, network directly. It's not nothing on social media that's like you're really going out there.
Yeah.
And I want to expose my students to those experiences because it's a life changer when you meet people. Not through a Zoom or a phone, but when you actually can shake a hand, you can feel their energy.
Yeah.
And so through those clubs, I was like, at the end, our fundraiser, instead of a car wash, no disrespect, but I don't want my students to have a heat stroke, for $10 or whatever. I was like, let's have a big time comedy show. We would put 2 G's, in our bank account at the end of the day, and we could use that for shirts or, any kind of merchandise that we wanted. And so teaching the students entrepreneurship at the same time has been a game changer, so.
That is great.
Yeah.
So you said something right now that, Jim and I have talked about. You said when you have somebody in person, you can feel that energy.
Right.
We have friends who have podcasts, and it's Zoom kind of, right? One screen here and then you're somewhere else. And I think that's really smart in terms of saving on transportation and not having to come out to a warehouse where you think you're going to get abducted. And then it's really nice inside.
That's beautiful.
I love you, Jim.
Yeah, it's nice.
But you know what I mean? Like, I feel your energy. To me, this is the way to do it. And this is why I've always said, Jim, I want a live audience.
Yeah.
Because when I'm
That's
teaching, when
awesome.
we're teaching, it's a live audience.
Yeah.
So we found a studio. CMAC, we're coming.
Let's go.
And it has a studio, and you can bring in about 25, 30 people. We want to do that because of what exactly you said, feeling the energy. And so with that being said, do you ever do distance podcasting, or is everybody in person they come in person?
The podcasting was always something in person, but when we went on that break with COVID, everybody went on that break, right? Globally.
Oh yeah, Zoom masters. All of us.
I had to learn, and
Yeah.
Madi, she'll laugh because she's like, man, I really have to like click on this, click. So everybody saw me light it up, but they're not seeing the behind the scenes, like the scenes where Madi's like setting, I had to put books, I'm short, man. So she had to put books. So I'm looking right, and they're like, wow, like you had a lot of energy. I can't wait to see you in person, So that pivot, I always tell students it was like listening to my Apple Music. Like that's great. But we went to go see Papa Roach in Sacramento a few weeks ago. There's nothing like seeing live music, baby.
Yeah.
And so I want to see that. So I tell them, after COVID, this madness is all done, and hopefully we get the opportunity. And all those colleges, man, they'd be calling. And again, it's just part of learning, growing. I'm not the biggest tech savvy person, but you have to do what you have to do sometimes. Protect that baby, as we talked about.
But I've also noticed that you're really smart about putting together the right team. Like, hey, you might be okay. So this is my thing, but I need somebody who's really good at the digital marketing.
For sure.
And so then you have a master come in.
For sure.
He did the logos, right?
Omar Seha is such a beast.
Thank
I
you.
love Omar.
Right?
Yeah.
So you surround yourself with a super team. And I think that is requires humility, because you're now handing your baby, or at least a part of it, say, hey, can you babysit and foster this child? And as much as I love them, I'm going to entrust you to represent us in a way. And that's how you win, don't you think? So
sure.
Here's what I wanted to do, and I shared this with you in a text earlier. There's someone out there watching right now who maybe be considering a career in speaking. And so I was like, can you give me 3 to 5 steps that you think would lead to a successful career, longevity, putting in the time?
I think like the number one thing, like you want to understand who you are as a person, identity. And we've talked about
That's
that.
what you told me.
For me, being from, I say I'm from Selma, people say now, because we're living in Visalia, oh, you're from Visalia. I go, nah, I'm from Selma.
Yeah.
I go, but beyond that, I'm from Central California. And so my goal, my mission, and you could ask Madi, like, honest to God, I had the conversation of, I was like, I want to build this team and give back to Central California. I want that professional and personal development here. We shouldn't have to look at LA or the Bay. Like, we do just as many good things as everybody else. Like, our region, we had Dr. Saul Jimenez Sandoval, the president of Fresno State, on our podcast, and we were talking about the pride that we have for both of us. And he goes, I'm so proud of you, John, because 30% of the world we feed here. And I just want to expose that to other places, because when I go to, like, Puerto Rico, or I go to San Francisco, or I go to, like, New Orleans, they don't know where Central California is from. They've heard of Fresno, but they're thinking like Golden Gate Bridge or Hollywood Boulevard. And I'm like,
we all live on the beach and
boom,
we surf.
right? It's flat land here with cows, right? And I'm like, I take great pride in that. Like, when I wake up at 4 a.m. for my classes that I teach.
4 a.m.
4 a.m., man. And I got to get in the right mindset, because that energy, I want to make sure it's consistent for my students. But I also see farm workers and farmers that are beating me to work. And I'm like, that's my inspiration. I'm like, dude, they're doing the work where I get to have fun now, And trust me, you guys heard about my 8 to 10 classes. I've grinded for this.
Yeah.
But I didn't grind that hard, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's on a whole nother, that's next level. So it's almost like I paying homage to Central California and our whole team. Think about it. We're all from Central California. So when we get out to these bigger cities, we were able, we're able and we're honored to really talk about where we're from and take pride in that. So for me, that was first, foremost. Second, giving back. And not just with the information, exposing them to different entrepreneurship mindsets, et cetera, but also monetary. Like, I wanted to get to a certain level where me and the wifey were comfortable, where we could give $1,000 scholarships at every school we touch.
Yeah, you do that. That's crazy.
And
wait, you had one recently. You said you gave to a teacher.
Teacher, man. Yeah. Shout out to Heather Silva.
He shows up.
Yeah.
Speaks at your school, and then a teacher walks away with $1,000.
Yeah. She got a G, man. She got a G.
Let's get him at Liberty.
Like Teacher of the Month award?
Yeah.
How did that work?
For again, me and Maribel, when we're talking about it, we talked about students, but we're like, man, one day if we get to a level, it would be nice to give back to teachers.
Yes.
And so, shout out to Heather Silva.
Thank
she
you
was
for
our
doing
Rise,
that, man.
man.
Thank
She was
you.
our Rise to It Teacher of the Year.
Yeah.
But she was also the 2025 Tulare County Teacher of the Year. So she's a complete bad, what? Like,
you know
she's
what bothers
awesome,
me
man.
about all that? Mm-hmm. You're talking about the teacher thing. And again, I don't want to get on that whole soapbox. We don't get paid enough, right?
Right.
What bothers me is, like, I lived in the corporate world for about 3 years, and it was a roller coaster, right? And I'll tell that story later. But during that time, I remember going to lunch with the friends, right? The corporate guys that I was with, and it was no thing like somebody had already given their card to the waiter. Waitress, server, was covered. Nobody talked about it, right? Because everybody had it.
Right.
And I was like, oh, this is cool. But then I remember my teacher days, and we'd go out to happy hour, and everybody had to get out their calculator and their Venmo, and hey, Joanne had 3 shots, and I only had. I hate that, man.
Yeah.
It's a reality, though, and it bothered me. And so when I talk about what my next level looks like, it looks like this. Me and my whole staff, we hit Buffalo Wild Wings where we hit. I drop the black card or whatever the card is.
There you go.
And I go, hey, 1 drink minimum. But you know what I mean? Like, get everybody their food.
There's
I don't
levels,
want nobody
there's levels.
talking about money,
Right.
and because it bothers me.
It does, and that's the exposure. Like, what I'm exposed to with people that are smarter, they make more, but you're never gonna hear it. It's just we all got each other's back. So one dinner I might have, DJ
Yeah.
Sal will have the next one.
See,
That's
that
just
don't
how we
happen with
function.
teachers.
Yeah,
'Cause we can't
it's
do it. We
different.
ain't got
It's
it like
different.
that.
We're at Andre's crib. He lives in a freaking mansion. And
Yeah.
so it's good to be exposed to that. But you also realize it exposes you to something that you thought was a dream or you thought
Yes.
wasn't true. Because a lot of students, they're like, oh, when I have money, I'm like, bro, this is no disrespect. I got a couple bucks. And it doesn't change you. There's more stress. There's more anxiety. There's more responsibility.
More money, more problems.
Exactly. And I'm like, yo, kid, like with your C grade, you're not even don't even talk about that, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're where you are, but I'm not saying you can't get to it, but there's more things that behind the scenes.
Layers
in the
to
black
this.
and white contract that you're signing away, like, that could be, I know people that make 45,000 that are extremely happy. I know
Yeah.
people that make $1 million, well over $1 million, and they're extremely unhappy. So my goal is always to look at, like, what's my identity? Who am I? We started off with suits, like when we go to schools. And naturally, people would be like, oh, you upgraded to suits. Now we actually upgraded to kind of casual wear because I was trying to be somebody I'm not.
Yeah.
And so my identity is Nike Cortez. My identity is slang. You know, even though I got the doctorate and I write a different way, it sounds like Chat GPT when you get published a couple times. But
Yeah.
I've had to learn that language. But I feel my comfort zones in my identity. My comfort zones with the homies. You
Yeah.
know, and so when I say homies, I mean everybody that has the book Smarts and Street Smarts. So I think first and foremost, that's a question that an individual is going to have to answer. Who are you? Like, what are you about? What are your core values?
We don't
right?
ask that enough, right?
We don't. And for me, it took me a long time. I mean, it took me, like I told you guys, 2 years to just say the motivational speaking company, right?
Yeah.
We're this. It's like, nah, bro, I can see all right through that. Like, what do you do? Like, I got stuff to do. Like, tell me right now.
Yeah.
And I think as people, like, what makes you happy, even as grown adults, some of us are in careers that you're just like, bro, I feel like my soul's getting sucked out of me every single day. I'm not happy. It's not fulfilling anymore. Or you see those people that are like, I need some of that, you know? And so
Yeah.
I've always surrounded myself with people like that. So the identity, I would say, you got to start off somewhere, you know, because I could put somebody on a stage. I've put some of your guests on stages, and that's great. But it's like, can you maintain and sustain that? Because I threw you an alley-oop, but can you grab the ball and start shooting your own, you know, in your own game? And that's something, again, it's no disrespect, but I had to learn that too. Of like, oh man, we got 5 gigs lined up. You know, I thought that was a lot back in the day. But
it
then
is a
what?
lot.
But then what, right? It's like, oh
So
man.
how do you? Is there an audition process? How does it work for you guys?
For us to get on
Or
Rise
you,
to It?
Or you just see guys and
Yeah,
gals
for
and go,
us at this point, like we're not interested in anybody unless they already have that juice. Like they already come with the resume, you know, because that's another thing too, the identity, but also your resume.
Yeah.
What do you have? But I have a great story. Who doesn't? Like I got 35 kids in front of me that have a
Yeah.
better story than me, and some of them are better speakers than me, but they don't have the tangibles of maybe networking, building rapport,
all those things that
all
come
those
with it,
things.
yeah.
So the resume, how could I sell that as a product? The national, I mean, that's really how Rise to It was born, right? God had that
the
plan.
national recognition.
The national recognition, and then all that. Now, I got the stations, right? LA Times, I got NBC, and again, people see that stuff. And I just shared this at that school exactly where Heather was out. Again, shout out to Heather Silver, our teacher
Yeah.
here. But I told the students, I go, you guys are seeing LA Times and all this stuff, but you're not seeing the alcoholic. You're not seeing somebody that almost lost the best relationship of his life. You're not seeing somebody that wasn't right with God.
And that's what you talk about.
And that's what I talk about. And so people are like, oh, I didn't expect this, because the normal speaker is going to be like, oh, I did this. And I don't care. Like, I don't get, Dre said this
man.
at his house the other day. He's like, you don't get impressed by anything. I don't. Like, there's nothing that, especially, unless it's God himself.
Yeah.
There is nothing that can impress me at this point, you know, because of the levels that I've gone through.
Yeah.
And I realize, again, it's not just about the money. We have a couple of bucks, right? We're giving a couple, but it's, man, the game changer of that student receiving it, the game changer of their parents seeing them get we
Yeah.
invite the parents to our events sometimes too, and they don't
Oh,
know what's
that's
going
awesome.
on.
Yeah.
So those are the moments that when I'm gone, like those are going to far outweigh, you know, those moments, those memories.
Yeah. You said something right now, and it triggered a memory that I have, and I talk about this when I speak. This is one of the lessons I say, and no disrespect, but it's called "Don't Be Johnny Mathis." So my friend Eric, best friend, brilliant, graduates #1 in his class in the business department of San Francisco State. We all going to go to his graduation, right? So we get there, and San Francisco State, and the guest speaker is Johnny Mathis. Now, for those who don't know, a little bit younger,
Super athlete.
he was, you know, a very famous vocalist, very accomplished, a lot of #1 hits back in the day. I guess he was kind of a crooner, I guess, maybe
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra,
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra type. So Johnny gets up there. We're all excited because Johnny's lived a journey. And Johnny's a man of color who had to navigate a time when maybe we weren't as open to that, a singer, right? And give them the same opportunities. And so we're listening to Johnny, and we're waiting for the message that connects to all these graduates. You know what Johnny told us? He told us how great he was.
Yeah.
For 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And we were waiting for him to like connect that back to this. No, it didn't. It was just, hey, I had a #1 hit then. I got #1. I was the first artist for this. I was the first artist for that. And then at the end, we're like, and I was
Yeah.
like, this dude just had an audience of accomplished graduates ready to conquer the world. And he had the opportunity to set them on fire. And he missed it
Yeah.
because he was so caught up in being Johnny. And I always told myself that no matter where I got in life, that for my students and as a Chitlin Circuit speaker, that's what I am right now, that I would always make my story about them.
Right.
Right. There was remember Special K? I got a man. What your man got to do with me?
Yeah.
I got a man. I ain't trying to hear that. Remember that?
I ain't trying to hear that. See?
When if you leave the audience like, what your story got to do with me?
Right.
You lost them.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that one of the primary things is because I'm a professor. So people ask all the time, how do I get in the game? I'm like, bro, teach 8 to 10 classes. How about that, right? Like, and are you willing to drive
this off my
right?
list.
Like, I remember going to Reedy College with Miss Main, and then bouncing to Bakersfield College and knocking out a 6-hour, well, it was 2-3 hour classes. Man. And then by the time I'm finished with
Red
that,
Bull, like what were you using?
Bro, it was the grace of God for real. My little Toyota Corolla, I was nuts, man. And so lots of Red Bull. But I remember doing those types of hours, but also how juiced I felt afterwards. Like I'm making a difference.
Yes.
And these students are impacting
I feel that.
me.
Do you feel that?
And so it was cool because then that's where I remember going to Best Western and putting stuff on a card because we had a faculty meeting the following morning, like at 8 a.m. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense for me to bounce back to Selma and then go back to Bakersfield in like 3 hours.
So you're investing in yourself.
And I was investing in myself. And so although I couldn't see the money, like I knew it was coming. Like I knew the impact was there. I always had the vision of that. Then when the national recognition, it was the same thing. And I told my wife, I go, this is not going to miss. I go, you just got to believe, and she's believed in it since day one. So when I say rise to it, it really is a Maribel Hernandez, Jonathan Hernandez, like
rising
business,
to the occasion.
For sure. And so
Where'd the name come from?
Shout out to Joey Moreno. I don't know if you worked with him, Jim, because I know you said CBS and some of the station. Jose Moreno, he goes by, and he was kind of the behind the scenes like director. And he always talked about our group, and he would make fun because when we get in groups of pictures, and Madi said this when she met a lot of my friends, she goes, you guys look like that Kmart frame picture that looks like so generic and everybody's so different. Like I would have cholos in there, I would have PhDs in there, I would have a rocker because my first love is rock music, like heavy stuff.
Really? That's why you said Papa Roach.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah, I'll go to a Christian concert and then go to a Maryland. Like that's just what I do. You know, I'm all like when it comes to that. And so my friends are the same way. But when you get together, it's like I feel comfortable with you guys, and so everybody's good people, and so maybe not necessarily. It's the common goal right there. And so, going back to that question, I would say, the resume, and then the identity, but then the practice rounds too. Like, are you investing? Like, are you getting a photographer out there to get pictures, to get video footage? Yeah. And so
I just asked him barely, like 10 years later, huh? I'm like, hey Jim, can you get some footage of my next gig? Mm-hmm. And he's like, wait, you've been doing this for 10 years on the Chitlin circuit. You ain't once asked anybody.
You have no proof.
Yeah, man.
You're like, what have you? Yeah, nobody knows. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And that's the great thing too. And then I would say the ego, which we all have. I firmly believe all of us as people have ego. Speakers do too.
Yeah. To check it, or what do you think? What do you have to do with that ego?
So the question I ask speakers: what lane do you speak? Like what age group? What's your demographic?
Oh yeah.
And comments oftentimes they'll say, oh, I do it all. And at that time I'm like, man, you got a lot of work to do. Because for me, I don't even do it all. And I was checked by one of my colleagues because I was complaining about a middle school and the leadership there wasn't the best. And I was just frustrated. And he goes, okay. He goes, when's the last time you were a national middle school teacher of the year? He goes, bro, you don't even do that lane. And now your ego's big enough. You actually think you could do middle school and dominate that lane on a 1-hour speech. And I was like, wow. Those are the types of people I love having in my life. Well, they'll check you.
Wow.
And for me, that reality was like, that's true. And so that's where I need to get guys that can handle K through 12. And I could do it. And some of them I'm going to kill. Some of them I'm going to be killed by, right? Yeah. So I would rather have the name of Rise to It get out there with some top-notch quality. Because once again, going back to that conversation we started, if you're a speaker and you're really interested in, understand, not every lane is your lane. You got to understand that.
Identity lane,
the networking, building relationships like you guys naturally do. It's not just speaking. I think because I teach communication, most people can speak, right? Most humans can speak. We take it for granted. But it's just like a music artist. It's just like a party planner. Yeah. It's just like the podcast. There's so many things. Like Jim, I'm noticing context. He's like, we're ready. And I'm like, dang, this is nice because I've been on podcasts where I'm like sitting around for an hour. Hey, we got this coming. You guys, and maybe that's that teacher, right? Maybe that's that educator in Jim.
I'll just pat myself on the back. Yeah. But you make a good point because it's funny because I've been challenged, and I'm going to say this right now. I've had some kids, like I teach digital video broadcasts, so I've had some kids saying, man, you act like you. I go, dude, I did this for 27 years. So your assignment this week is to do a music video. Pick a song you want to do that has no bad words or whatever and has a story in it. And let's tell the story. Have a beginning, middle, and end. And let's do it. Let's produce it. You got a week to do it. Mm-hmm. And I had some kids a couple of years ago challenge me saying, why don't you do one? I'm like, all right, you mother. Come on, man. Let's do this. Right. So I said, all right, I got a song. Yeah, you got a song? I go, yeah, and I'll do it in 3 days. I go, I'll do it over the weekend and whatever. And they're like, all right. So we go through the whole week. And I shot it myself, and I had a buddy of mine had a
motorcycle one.
Yeah, it's legit. So
yeah.
And it's one of those things where I'm like, sometimes I have to catch myself thinking, and you said it earlier, I want the kids to do a better job than me, because then I feel like, okay, they're learning from me and they're getting it. And so when some of them teach me how to edit the way, I'm like, how'd you figure out how to do that?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, I did this. I'm like, oh, damn. So, and I like that. I love that, because then the classroom is lateral. It's neutral.
Yeah.
You don't have somebody in there thinking they're the God's gift to this, classroom and whatever. But then you have some of these people that after COVID, I blame COVID on a lot of things. Mm-hmm. They come in and think they're a guest speaker. They think they know it all.
Right.
And they have to earn that. They have to come in and put the work behind it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I credit you on that, because I mean, it's real. You would think that some future employees would not just want to hire a warm body. Show me your stuff. Show me this. So yeah, and I got a standing ovation when I showed that video in the classroom. They were like, "Oh, all right," and I go, "Okay, back down." So I know it.
So check this out, and this is full circle. When I always wanted to be on stage for something, we had a boy band for like 10 minutes.
Nice.
At some point, yeah.
For real, it was a boy band.
We were not radio or nothing like that. But anyway, I wanted to be on stage. So guess who gave me my first platform? This is 1990. 91. I don't even know this guy, right? Him.
Wow.
He organized a talent show at Orosi High School. We were at Dinuba High, and our friend, Ida Rebalosa, said, hey, I'll be your choreographer. We were called All in One because, we had all the different things.
Man, that is a boy band name right there. Okay.
And we went and we had a dance routine at that time. We weren't singing, no vocals at that time. And Orosi High was putting on this talent show. Little did I know, he put on the show.
We had over 700 people in the gym, and the fire department came and said, "Yeah, you guys can't do this."
and I didn't know him, but he came on stage. He was one of the first 2 or 3 acts. He's like, "Hey, I'm not just organizing. I'm on there." So him and his friend are up there. My girlie farted. Whoa, whoa. Do you remember that song?
I don't remember that one at all.
Hair and weave, man. Hair and weave.
I gotta check that one out.
It was a Al Yankovic remix.
Oh, okay.
Let's get it started, right? MC Hammer. And it was him and his friend. Yeah. And he had the bright red hair.
That's awesome.
And like, who is this guy? And little, I know, right? Now, full circle, 30 years later, he provides me again with another stage, another opportunity platform. That's how God works.
Yeah, for sure.
Is that crazy?
That's crazy, man. Yeah.
So I want to finish this off by asking you, when it's all said and done, right? And you're reflecting back on your career, what do you want to be? What's your legacy? What do you want to leave behind?
For Rise to It or teaching, both?
Man, I would say, I guess your life's work. Let's go Saving Private Ryan, right?
Yeah.
Have you guys all seen the movie? Mm-hmm. So at the end of his life, right, Saving Private Ryan, a lot of people had to die for him to survive World War II. Mm-hmm. And he looks over at his wife, teary-eyed. He says, tell me I was a good man. Like, I lived a good life, right? Yeah. And basically was saying, like, tell me I made the most of what was given to me. So all these mentors, all these people, your mother, father, your queen, everybody who, played a part, what legacy do you want to leave behind that people will say about you? Say, hey, you know what? H loved people, or H gave back, or what do you want to be said about you?
Yeah, LL Cool J says something, and we touched on it in our podcast he goes, I'm not a nice guy, but I'm a good guy. And so he distinguished the difference between if there's a old lady out there and there's a guy that just runs up to her and takes her pocketbook. He goes, I'm going to go get that guy, and I'm going to break his face. And he goes, is that a nice move? I don't know if it's a nice move, but I'm a good man. And so I don't want anybody to ever question, and if they do, then, and that's another thing in speaking too. You're not going to please everybody. Like, I think we see
thank you for
the lights,
that.
Camera, action. You're not going to please. And just like when you're a professional, and if you're a professional moving up, you have to expect those shots coming at you. One of my favorite rappers, Lecrae, Christian rapper, right? one of my favorite quotes by him is, if you want to be the one to call the shots, you better be ready to take the shots yourself. And I think I've learned that coming up as well too, is you think it's going to be positive, but there's going to be some people out there that, well, I could do it better. Right? And that's fine, you know, and I give them the mic, like, here you go. Like, absolutely. Like, I'm rooting for you. But I think at the end of the day, definitely like a man of God. Like when I say like I am that, my students feel that, and they will tell you whether they like me or not. Which overwhelmingly, I'm very fortunate. Like it's fun. My students, like the love is there, man, every single day. But I want them to understand that like if he could do it, I could do it too. But I also understand there has to be a roadmap. There has to be a game plan. I'm not just going to fall into success. I'm not just going to be an influencer all of a sudden. I'm not going to be a speaker all of a sudden. This is going to take some work.
There's levels to it.
There's
and a blueprint.
levels. And I've always wanted to teach them the levels because I never was taught that. I was taught that actually when we were doing house parties. Like, okay, I messed up here. This is what I'm going to work on next time. I never had a professor really just map out, this is what you need to do, because I realized they weren't doing that thing. They weren't speaking. And so for them to be humble enough and say, John, like, you're the one that's going to be the one that's speaking, just make sure that you take the business approach, because that sloppy stuff you were doing when you were a kid, you want to elevate, you want to make sure that you're doing this as a lifestyle, you know? And so any way that I could be of service to people, you know, reaching out like Rob and Jim, for you guys to even invite me, you know, it was like absolutely. And I do remember I was like, hit me up in May. Yeah. And then I think our viewers could take that initiative. Initiative is a huge thing. So when I tell people, hey, I'm going to email you, I do mean it. It's not like we're teenagers. Or should I text him or her and get back 5 days? Am I going to sound too, you know, what do they say, thirsty? It's like, bro, give me the Gatorade because I'm thirsty right now. Like, let's go. Like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to be there. And I said that initiative
True
is
to your
key.
word. You're here
true to your word, man. Man of my, and I think ultimately that's what I'm saying, a man of my word.
You were.
Like, if we're going to say we're going to do something, well, then we're going to do it, but we're also going to do it on the highest level possible, you know, because, you know, we've lost a lot of people. Jim, I'm sure yourself, me, lost a lot of family members, and I realized that time was short, man. You just don't know. So I'd rather know. Even if it's a no, I'd rather know. You know, I'd rather get that experience and make those adjustments, and understand, too, not every lane's for me, you know. So I think just ultimately looking back at my life, I'm hoping and I'm praying for rise to it. Even when I'm gone, it's the next level of speakers, you know. And I'm already looking at, like, the next generation of speakers. I like to think that I'm not getting old. I am. And so time doesn't, you know, wait or for any man or woman, but I'm seeing the next level of like ambition, which is refreshing. And so I could see this going on, man, for who knows how long, you know?
Man, that's beautiful. Well, I want to thank you for being here. Listeners, you basically got Speech 101 class for free today at YouTube University. If you like what we're doing, please subscribe, please like. If you enjoy H's message today, we're going to have all his links in our description. You can follow him, and if you live in the local area, or even, you know, where he expands out to, you can see him live somewhere with his team, the #1 motivational company in the Central Valley, and ultimately maybe the world.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? So thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. Appreciate you for being a man of your word. If you've left any legacy with us, it's that you give and you care about the people you're giving to. And so we appreciate that.
Thank you, Rob.
We thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you,
we'll do
brother.
the awkward microwave.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, man.
The microwave, the microphone hug. And once again, thank you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
So, guys, you liked the episode, check it out. We're now on CMAC. CMAC's going to love this, right? Jim, what does CMAC stand for?
I don't know yet.
Oh, see?
Yeah. It's too soon, man. Too soon.
Too soon.
Yeah.
But look up CMAC. We're going to put their link as well in our other descriptions. And you guys can find us on Uverse now.
Yeah.
Roku.
Spotify.
What's the other channel? There's one more. Xfinity. Did I say Xfinity?
No.
Oh, and I have Xfinity cable. My bad, Xfinity. We love you guys, but check us out on all those. Follow H and his journey. Rise to it, the #1 Central Valley motivational speaking company. Check us out. Until next time, from Dr. Hernandez, from Jim, from the Queen Maribel, from Paul, who's coming up next with his robot, is Rob Live, and we're saying love, peace, chicken grease. We out.